Start recording in 3, 2, and 1. All right, and welcome back to the Reserve Squad Midweek Show, a soccer podcast covering all things in the EPL and now the World Cup from a bench perspective. I'm here, Spin, and actually, I guess we'll start off early. I think it's pretty cool to say that we've gotten to see the best basketball player, basically, play during our prime watching years. In LeBron James, yeah, we'll go there. And then I think without zero hesitation, I think I can say the same now for soccer or football with Lionel Messi.
I thought you were going to say Otamendi, so I'm glad you finished that with.
And so we'll get the take started early, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Rex. So Rex, good to see you as always.
Hey, good to be here. I thought you were going to talk about Frank Beamer, honestly.
Oh, well, a coach, not necessarily a player. Anyways.
Oh yeah, true.
And maybe I should stop calling him a guest because he's been on every show lately. So a fellow squad member in Jeremy. Jeremy, good to see you as well.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
All right, and so again, like always, you kind of say you put us on a slate that you only have a short time. So I guess we'll just kind of get into it. I mean, what was your take of the week?
Take of the week. I think it was that the games were both not close. Morocco game. I think Morocco-France game. I think for a time being, France were playing a little bit with fire. But I posed this to you guys yesterday on a text thread, which is that there were only 2 World Cup semifinals in the last 30 years that were by more than a goal after 90 minutes.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
One of them was the game that just happened, which was Argentina and Croatia, which was not as close as what I thought it was going to be. And then the next day, or that day, France wins by 2 goals. So we didn't get the epic semifinal showdown that I think we were maybe expecting, or maybe we just had realized that the quarterfinals were when the fun was. But
suffered through the semis to maybe get a dream matchup though in the finals.
Yes, and I think that's okay. But that was my takeaway, was just that I was surprised, I guess, by the ease at which Argentina won. I thought thought they'd struggle a little bit more. I thought Croatia, I thought the dream may keep a little bit alive, but it looks like, as you mentioned in the intro, the real dream is getting Lionel Messi, this Argentina team, lifting him and getting him his long-awaited World Cup trophy. So there we go.
And oh no, it looks like we've lost Rex. So I'll kind of stick a little bit on the same theme. I think my take is it's not really a carry job, even though Messi has been brilliant in this tournament. I think he finally has a supporting cast, and really, I think the main thing is he finally has maybe his Aguero. I look back at all those big finals in Copas, definitely in 2014, and all those big chances fell to Higuain or some guy named Palacios.
Palacios.
And because Di Maria wasn't able to play, Sergio Aguero was able to play in like the first game in that tournament, and just I think he had like a knee trouble. Basically the knee issues were happening like even then. Like the team the starting 11 that started that day was like Di Michaelis, Lucas Bigla, I think Lavezzi, and then a guy named Enzo Perez, who I don't even remember.
Yep.
And then
I remember him.
The back line was like Marcus Roja and Ezekiel Gaye, and just another player. I mean, it's not necessarily like we're scrubs then, but it doesn't seem necessarily the same when you look at the roster now, where I feel like in 5 years, I think we'll all recognize these players. So it just feels different, and it's fitting that all of this is kind of happening all at once. So I think that was my main thing.
And Ben, I'll kind of one-up you, is that was 2014, but you go back and look at the game in 2018 that Argentina lost to France, which I guess may be the theme of today's episode. We'll maybe talk a little bit on that performance. But
Mascherano started.
The Mascherano started. Eder Banega. Perez also played midfield. Pavon was the right wing. I don't know if you remember him. Mercado, Marcus Rojo of Manchester United fame was in the back line. So it's amazing how much turnover that this team has had in only 4 short years. So I think he's waited. I think Messi's clearly changed as a footballer, but for Argentina, he's always needed, and it's become the same way in the club game. But Argentina, he's always needed a team that would do the work for him,
yes.
Just because he's just international football is just a certain type. And I think he finally has that long-awaited midfield, long-awaited back line, long-awaited whatever.
Keeper
too. So I think that it's just stunning to look at just how good this Argentina team is compared to those last 2 teams, which weren't very good. I think the 2014 Argentina team really wasn't anything special.
And Rex, good to see you again.
Yeah, sorry, my internet just dropped out completely.
So again, I thought it was on my end in the beginning. I mean,
Yeah, me too. I was hoping, but
what was your take?
oh man, I mean, I think this is kind of the final that we hoped for. It's kind of like the final of destiny. And it was good to see Morocco get this far. It's good to see Croatia get this far too. Props to them. Sometimes it was more defensive, but if you're a lesser team, sometimes that's what you got to do. What you got to do. Not necessarily that Croatia was, but more Morocco. But yeah, I think this is the final we got that we wanted. Really, two of the better teams, and they're playing really well. I think Argentina too, kind of. That first loss to Saudi Arabia, we were kind of like, I don't know about them, but I think it was kind of just like a warning shot early, and it kind of just refocused them, and they were like, all right, we need to step it up because we can lose to anyone. And if you're going to lose a game, losing in the group stage is great because I think I mean, I'd like to see what Scaloni did, like at halftime, what the talk was, or after the game, even to get everyone like back on board immediately. And obviously they haven't lost since, and they made it to the final. So I think they got good vibes going. And I don't know, France gonna be tough too. But did y'all hear they have this like virus
There's a
going
little
around?
illness,
And now,
yeah,
Yeah, little Netherlands.
affecting
yeah,
Varane and
who is it?
Kanate.
It's Rabio too.
Oh,
I don't know if
right,
he'll be
yeah.
back in time. Upamecano and now Kingsley Coman too. And
Jeez.
Deschamps said it was because like all the AC blowing, like in the stadiums and the hotel. That's what he blamed it on. It's like getting everyone sick. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And then obviously, I don't know if y'all talked about like Benzema, but Benzema might make the squad too. I don't know. I mean, I doubt he would start, right? I mean, maybe he'd come
No.
off the bench, but who knows? Maybe might be more of a distraction too. That's all going to be interesting. See how that plays out.
Yeah, because I didn't think Giroud and Benzema got along, from what I remember. But maybe
I
maybe
think
that's
you're
just
right.
gossip.
Yeah. No, I think you're right though.
I mean, to focus, we'll focus on the first game. I think, or actually, I do want to touch on a little bit what you said with the first game with Argentina and Saudi Arabia. Maybe we'll get Jeremy's kind of a perspective on this too. But it is interesting how Argentina kind of did come into this, basically winning 30 games in a row, essentially off the back of that Copa win. And I didn't even realize that basically this coach was a caretaker, and just I think this is his first actual coaching job. Um, and one thing you kind of worry about a little bit is, was it just Messi's team or this guy? But he actually did make some changes, and I think that basically is the reason why it's not the same team that played in that Saudi Arabia game. It's not like Argentina was just bad that day. They lined up bad. Lautaro Martinez started next to Messi. That we saw that didn't work. So insert Julian Alvarez, and that they've been a different team since then. They were playing Rodrigo de Paul, basically almost in like a pivot role, and they've moved him more into like a wider position in midfield, and they brought in Alexis McAllister and Enzo Perez, and that significantly changed them as well. So, I mean, Jeremy, did you kind of notice same things?
Actually love that you brought up the fact that he was a caretaker because I was doing a little bit of research on him. He was on the bench for that 2018 game against France, and
Wow.
ESPN had a great article about this the other day, which was that he took over after that loss in 2018, which was seen as a disaster, which probably a little bit harsh just because France ended up winning the World Cup. But he was one of the roles he had on the team was he was scouting the opposition, and I think he was really impressed with France and the way that they moved from one end of the pitch to the other in like 4 to 5 seconds. And he was interested in getting Argentina to play that way. He was really interested in trying to create a counterattacking side. That's the way that he saw football going. And his first game in charge was actually a Copa game against Colombia, and it ended up being a disaster. I think they lost 2-0. Aguero and Messi up top. You can imagine not the best team probably for counterattacking football. And immediately he realized that like the style that he wanted to play wasn't going to actually work for Argentina, and so he completely scrapped that. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at, which is that he has been, I think, more than any other manager this tournament, willing to experiment with different formations, different styles, different players.
Saw back three versus Holland, like out of nowhere, just for that game.
Yeah, so I think that it's really impressive just what he's done because he recognized that this was Messi's team, and in order to get the best out of him, he's going to have to do a lot of things, a lot of sacrifices with the midfield. I mean, one thing I don't know if we've talked about this before, but Argentina they used to have a lot of wingers. They used to be a team with a lot of pace down the wings. And now with Alvarez, I mean, Alvarez's side playing up top, they really don't have a lot of pace. They don't have the ability to really move the ball up the pitch very fast, other than the fullbacks. And I think I think in international football, you see this in France actually, is you really don't want your fullbacks to get forward. You need to play a little bit more conservatively. So I think that I think it's impressive that he recognizes what this team needed. So I'm just curious to see what he'll do on Sunday, because I think
Likewise.
there's a case here that he might do a back five again. I think he may actually continue the same formation he tried against Croatia, which worked pretty well and sort of shutting down the game. Yeah, sort of 4-4-2, shutting down the game a little bit.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because what you saw, another thing, everyone's going to talk about Alvarez, and we can as well. But another thing that I've noticed is, especially, and you noticed it versus the Netherlands specifically, is Molina's started to basically become their de facto winger, and he's providing all this width. And can you do that with Mbappe on the other side? Now, you can do that with Croatia because Perisic didn't want to make runs all day, and you had Memphis versus Holland or the Netherlands in that game, and they're just not the same players. So can Rodrigo de Paul drop back, because that's basically what he's doing with Perisic, and can you trust that? I guess that would be kind of the question.
Well, and I guess the wild card here is maybe this might be a bridge too far for to do this in the final, but is this the game that Di Maria can play? Because I think we saw it in his performance in the second half against Holland, especially in the extra time period. He really changed his team and got them kind of almost able to eke out a victory in that extra time. So I think that we saw this again. We saw this with Morocco. We saw this with England. There's just behind Mbappe, there's just a ton of space to exploit, and that's the area that Messi's working in. But he's going to need some width there and some running. And like you said, it's not going to be able to come from the fullback, because they're going to have to do sort of the Kyle Walker situation and probably keep that player, at least one of those players, maybe more, back there defending. Because Mbappe doesn't. Mbappe's kind of like the French Messi. He doesn't come back. He doesn't track back. He just stays high.
Yeah.
And Max, do you want to have a say in any of this? Jump in.
What was the question?
Oh, we were just kind of talking about
my stupid internet, Ben. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, basically, we've been talking a little bit about the Argentina-Croatia game. I think a little of it was all of us were kind of a little bit more higher on Croatia than maybe we should have been.
Yeah.
And looking back, it's weird because the 3-0 I think is a fair result, but at the same time also unfair, if that makes sense, because a lot of these goals were kind of their own doing. It was probably the worst game I think we've seen Gvardiol, who's had a fantastic tournament. And if you just watched him on that game, I think his price tag probably went down a little bit. But it also wasn't a good game for Lovren. And what's weird is, as good as they were versus Brazil, and they were good at controlling the game with their midfield, Lavatka or their keeper still had to make 11 saves versus Brazil, which I think we forgot about. And I think just really that kind of showed up. Just the back line wasn't able to do two jobs in a row, I think.
Yeah, and if you two center backs, they have a poor game, it's gonna spell trouble at least. So yeah, Livakovic, the keeper, has been great all tournament, and I felt bad for him because 3-0, that no keeper wants 3 scored on him especially, but yeah, 11 saves. It could have been a lot worse if it wasn't for him, and he had a really good tournament. His stock's rising. He'll probably make a hefty amount of money from these good performances, hopefully, with club teams.
I mean, Jeremy, since we don't really have you for a ton of this, I do want to get your takes a little bit on how you've seen Messi's game change over the years, because it has. And what's kind of funny is, for the longest time, it felt like this maybe seems like kind of unfair, but I'll just say it anyways. It felt like him playing for Argentina was almost like a chore compared to his Barca time. And then after that turmoil with that his last year at Barca, and then the last couple years at PSG, it's almost like flipped, and he seems to be enjoying a lot more at Argentina in kind of like the same manner. But how much? I mean, we finally saw. I mean, kind of a glimpse of what he used to be, taking players on, getting the ball basically on like the halfway line and dribbling it, taking on players to get into the box and then to try to make some magic happen. Because we haven't necessarily seen a ton of that, I think, at PSG. And I don't know, it's just been wild to see how he's been able to revamp his career as he's aged. You mentioned how he doesn't have the pace. Basically, he had his maybe his fastest was maybe when he was 21. I mean, you want to talk about that?
It's unbelievable to me. I think he's got a lot of mileage on his legs, and to be fair, but it's stunning to me that even going back 5-6 years, I look at someone like Mo Salah, who's a similar build and just has so much more pace. I think Messi, after probably I'd say 2012, 2013, just like wasn't the same sort of pacey winger that we were so used to. I mean, at that point, I mean, I remember there's a famous sort of going on a little rant here, but there was a famous Spanish journalist that referred to Messi as a dog. He would just chase after the ball, and he was just one track. You put the ball in front of him, and he would just run towards the goal with nothing stopping him. You remember those famous clips of him getting his legs tackled, and he'd still keep going and just churning towards the goal. And he's kind of not that player now. He's a little more, his head's up a little bit more. He relies on players making runs. I think part of that is a personal choice. I think that he realized that he wanted to be a little bit more of a playmaker. He realized that I think especially in that Luis Enrique side, when he had Neymar and Suarez, that sort of suited what the team needed. And I think in a weird way, he actually internalized a little bit of it. But I guess going back to something you mentioned about Messi in Argentina is just talking about him specifically there, and not just his club performances. Is in 2016 he retired from Argentina.
Oh, that's right.
And he had these defeats in the 2014 World Cup, and then in multiple Copa Americas. I think it's up to 3.
Oh, they missed a final. Did he miss a PK? I remember that.
He missed a PK in the final. Yeah. And I think it was amazing to think that I would have never thought that it would have come to this. And I think he may have looked also on the horizon, at least in that immediate period, 2017, and just saw that the talent wasn't there. It was, we mentioned what the team was that played against France in 2018, but it really took sort of a new crop of players to come up and sort of rally around them.
Yeah.
To prop up him to the long-awaited trophy. So I think the interesting, I guess one last thing just to say about him at Argentina is, he's always been much more disappointing. I think that the Argentina public has always questioned whether he is fully committed to the side. He's even in the 2014 World Cup, he didn't score a goal in the knockout period, and I don't think at that point in a country, even though they reached the final then, I don't think the country was fully united around him. There really was a lot of doubts whether he was committed to the team. And it really took, I think, both him retiring, I think, and then people sort of realizing what that meant. And I think it also took him winning that Copa last year to,
yes, I think so.
And him sort of bleeding in that jersey, him crying, him looking so passionate. And, I know I'm going on a rant, but just the last thing to say is that I think during this tournament, I was listening to a few podcasts with Argentinian journalists, and they said that the public, I think, is just really taken by how much he scrapped this tournament. I think the performance against Holland in particular, I think the way that he seemed fired up after the game, I think that's sort of the culture that this country knows best. There's always been that doubt to Messi that he's not a player of the slums. He's not a player of poverty. He grew up in a suburb. He flew over to Barcelona, Spain, and never really came back. There's always been a question about his true Argentinian identity. And I think for the public to see him now performing in this way and acting in this way, I think they've kind of fully embraced him in a way that I think he's needed too. So, that's a long answer, but it is remarkable. I would have never thought that this would happen. So again, I think that it's worth thinking about.
Well, I don't know if you remember this. You might have actually been over at the house because it was right before basically it was like their final qualifying game in I guess Common Bowl. I forget who they were playing. It might have been like Ecuador or whoever. But before BN had a giant special, basically showing that a lot of people were just doubting Messi, and they were like, maybe they were even saying like he doesn't his pride is at Barcelona. Basically, they didn't think like the team was that really that good, and then Messi basically had a hat trick that night. And it was just wild to kind of hear. Now, again, it can be selective on who you interview, But it was a lot of people just like not really caring about him, even back then. And then they get to the World Cup, and obviously they struggled to even get out of the group stage. I think Messi had to score versus Nigeria, and he scored a fantastic
Yeah.
goal. And then they drew France. But one thing that's weird is it's always it's I guess because of his stature or whatnot, he's always been compared to Maradona, and I've never actually looked at his stats, but I want to read these out to you. And this is almost fraudulent. The fact that this conversation has been allowed to go on for so long. Maradona has a World Cup, and he got it because of a handball. This would not exist with VAR. But
Yeah.
anyways, career club goals in all competitions. Maradona has 159 goals and 82 assists. Do you want to guess what Messi's is?
700 goals, 500 assists.
That's close. 701 and then 333.
Okay,
And
way over the assists.
And for Argentina, it was 34 for Maradona. Do you want to guess what Messi's is?
85.
Yeah, it's 96.
Okay.
Why is this ever been a conversation?
It's the World Cup. I mean, I completely agree with you. It's the World Cup. It's the fact that the Argentinians believe that he took a very average workmanlike side in 1986 to a final. But like you said, with no VAR, with with sides, with semi-professional players, it is amazing that I agree with you. It's amazing that there's ever a conversation. But this is what unfortunately this is just. I think this is why the neutrals. I mean, I don't know. Is there anybody out there besides Cristiano Ronaldo fans and French people that want anybody other than Argentina to win this final? I don't think you can find such a neutral final, such a fan favorite final. So many people just wanting one team. You'd have to go back decades. It feels like. So it's stunning that it's a competition there.
And it is funny. Like one thing, I guess people you maybe need to think about when they try to take predictions on this game is it's probably going to be like an 85% pro Argentina crowd. At least it's felt like that for every game that they played in. Now, even though France, I think the majority of France's team is actually Muslim worshiping. I don't think that's going to factor in. I think it's still going to be pro Argentina, probably because of Messi.
Yeah.
Rex, do we have you? Oh no.
Oh no. Well,
That
you
is-
can go to me one more. Is Rex there?
It doesn't seem. I mean, do you want to touch a little bit on basically what you expect to see in the final? I know you don't have too much time.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah. I go. I'm really good. This one I'm really torn on. Let me maybe talk about the French side just because I don't think we've given it enough justice to them yet. Which is, I think one incredible thing. I'll get into my thoughts in a second, but I think one incredible thing is if France wins this again, they're going to be the first side I think in 5 decades to win back-to-back titles.
Yeah, they said like 62 Brazil or something like that.
Yeah, and I think what's incredible about it is it feels kind of like Real Madrid between 2015 and 2017, winning those 3 titles.
They would be the favorites in 2026. Yeah.
What I mean by that is not that. Actually, what I mean is they don't feel great. They kind of feel like they're good. They've got they've got generational talent in Mbappe, and they clearly are just producing just studs every year. And they have this just wealth of depth and talent. The players injured for them right now could probably win a World Cup, but they don't. I don't know. You wouldn't put them in the same pedestal as probably the Brazil sides of 20 years ago or the Italian sides in the 70s or whatever. It just feels a little bit weird. So I almost feel like, when I pick this, I'm sort of picking. I think I'm going to pick Argentina to win, even though I think that I think that France is probably favored, but I think that it would just feel like an injustice for France to win, just because I don't think that they are truly great. As for I think what's going to happen in this game, I think the biggest thing that will come down to is sort of Argentina's ability. What Scaloni really picks apart with his French side and realizes what he can nullify. It can't just be simply Mbappe, which I think every team is focusing on. It's going to have to be Griezmann and Dembele, because the last couple of games where Mbappe was shut down, it was really those other players which got open that were able to create things. So I think that Scaloni's probably going to opt for another 4-man midfield just to keep things really tight before he opens it up. Maybe if the game stays 0-0 or 1-0.
France can't score an early goal or score first, right?
100%.
That would be
100%.
because then they could sit back, and I don't know how Argentina would be able to find the spaces.
But the interesting thing is, I think Argentina's going to have a lot of the ball, and I think it's going to be a little bit like that Holland game. I think that they're going to sort of have to patiently build out there, and I think that my prediction, I think is Argentina's going to win 2-1. But I think if Argentina wins in this game, they're going to have to score first. I think they're not going to be able to come from behind, and I think that there's a very good chance that I think France start hot and this game could be over very quickly. And I hope it's not that case.
And Rex, good to see you. Maybe for the
Hey,
maybe for the last time.
I don't know.
He's a guitar.
Yeah, I don't know. The internet just keeps like going out and then it comes right back on. So
I've had that.
I don't know. I don't know.
One thing, actually, I want to ask you, Jeremy, before I guess he bounces. Everyone is praised Giroud and Griezmann, and obviously both have had a wonderful tournament. I think Griezmann's actually been the glue in a number of these games, but it's just weird.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like France are significantly a more dangerous side when Mbappe's played in the middle, and I don't think you can necessarily do that with both Griezmann and Giroud. One of them would have to go out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just feels like sometimes he can be isolated on the wing side, and when he basically creeps in the middle, that does leave that entire wing completely open. Because Rabiot can't necessarily cover it, and Teo Hernandez, for as good as he is offensively, he can be got at defensively. I think we've seen that in a number of games.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that Griezmann is very much in the running to be maybe the golden ball here, which is kind of weird to say for a player that I think in the last few years has sort of fallen off everybody's radar on club level. But yeah, I do think that there's been 2 consecutive games of Mbappe keeping quiet, Griezmann showing up. But I do think that Mbappe probably needs to be the difference here for France, because one thing I guess we haven't touched on is Argentina really don't have a lot of pace in their back line. They've got Otamendi back there. Even Lautaro Martinez isn't the quickest player at times if he's going to play.
Romero can be
and Romero struggles as well in 1v1 duels. So, I guess I want to pose this to you, Ben. I got to sign off in a second, but I actually thought the player of the game against Morocco was actually Konate.
I thought so too. Yes.
And if he misses this final and Upamecano comes in, I know Rex said that he's also got an illness as well. That's potentially a very major decision for France, because we know that they've got a lot of talent at center back, but I just feel like the drop off when Konate is out of that team, especially with his pace and recovery, could be pretty huge. And I think that's kind of underrated, I think, going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, especially versus England, Upamecano could have basically caused 2 penalties. I think he at least caused 1. I think you're right. They
set off, guys, but I'll let you guys go.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep going, Rex, or you think you're good?
Yeah, let's try. I mean, it might. I don't know. My internet might just like completely cut out again. But yeah, let's keep going. I don't know what's going on. I have it like it's fine, and then all of a sudden it'll just cut out.
Yeah.
And drop everything, and then it'll cut back in. So yeah, let's keep going though.
I mean, I've been there before.
Still working.
It's rough.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But my phone's fine. Like the internet on my phone's fine. So it's something with the computer. Who knows?
I mean, we mostly just kind of talked. We basically talked a little bit about like Messi's career, the way like Jeremy's kind of seen it, because. One thing that's kind of funny is I can speak about basically Liverpool players until basically I lose my breath. And Jeremy can basically do that with Messi because from that 2011 stretch to I guess 2016 Jeremy watched every Barcelona game like live, and I've kind of done that with Liverpool, but it's just so it's good to kind of like it's not just hearing someone's opinions on just like how they've seen like through highlight reels, just because you can catch stuff in a live game that sometimes you can't necessarily see in a highlight clip. So.
Oh yeah, Jeremy's like a Messi expert, because
Yeah.
not only did he like watch all his games, but he also would go back and watch clips, and he would go to like YouTube and look at like Messi's kind of like some skill moves, and then Jeremy would go out in the backyard and like practice them. So yeah, Jeremy's a Messi expert for sure, and he's a Barcelona expert from like 2008 to whenever.
It might have been before 11. Yeah.
Yeah, or well, maybe he didn't, because it was so hard to watch like La Liga games every game. But I mean, he managed to do it for sure. Yeah, and I was actually able to listen to y'all on on my phone. I was
Oh, okay.
listening, but I couldn't talk. I guess I don't know. But
Yeah,
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 so
we couldn't hear you.
I heard what y'all were talking about. He's Jeremy's a expert for sure.
So, I mean, we mostly so we talked about that. I guess we got his takes a little bit for what he thinks will happen in the final. I mean, do you want to kind of just go through quickly go through the semis? We don't have to do what we've done in the past where we like spend forever on it. But I mean, we can just kind of touch on both games, if that
Yeah,
works.
sounds good.
All right,
Yeah.
so Argentina. We'll start with the first one. Argentina and Croatia. This one ends 3-0 with Messi PK, and then two goals from Alvarez. Argentina started in a 4-4-2 with Molina, which I think we're going to get into. He's maybe been like kind of the secret star in this team. Romero, Otamendi, Tagliafico. Again, Lisandro Martinez is he's brought on later as a sub, but he's sticking with Otamendi for these big games. And then Rodrigo de Paul has been moved a little bit further, more to the wide side than in the pivot. Paredes made a first start since I think
Mhm.
the Saudi Arabia game, so that was kind of surprising. Then Enzo Fernandez, who has been basically fantastic in every game he's played in, and McAllister as well, and then Messi and Alvarez, and so and then Croatia with kind of not a ton of changes. I think it was the same side that faced Brazil. So 4-4-3 with Jovanovic, Lovren, Gvardiol, and Sosa, and those last three players did not have a good game. Did
Mhm.
they again? It's hard to pick yourself up after having like a big maybe upset, and that kind of happened. I mean, Sosa, I think specifically,
Yeah,
was kind
that
of
yeah,
he
that
didn't.
misclear kind of he. I mean, I guess he didn't completely whiff, but he basically did. Yeah, and then Alvarez just like continued in after that. Yeah, that was terrible.
And then Kovacic, Brozovic, and Modric. And I think one of the negatives again also is for as good as this Croatia's midfield has been, they've also done a lot of mileage. I think I saw
Mhm.
whenever I saw like U.S. stats when it came to like how much distance we've covered, Croatia and Spain were like right there.
Yeah,
And these guys aren't necessarily spring chickens anymore. I mean, Brozovic had to
no,
actually go off. I think at the start of the second half, and it wasn't for tactic reasons. He just couldn't go. And then
yeah,
Pasalic, Kramaric, and Perisic, and that front three didn't really work as well either. But one thing that's kind of funny about this is again the goals kind of just happen just from mistakes. For that first 20-minute stretch, it did feel like Croatia was actually the more dominant side. Argentina was more sitting back, and Croatia were having a lot of the ball. Just they weren't able to really create chances. And I think that's maybe the best way to kind of sum up Croatia.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah, very. They do work hard, but I think I forget who it was, but someone they said for Croatia the previous game before the Argentina game had run 10 miles in the match, and it was like, wow, that's ridiculous because like most of it's probably a full sprint. So yeah, they're very industrious. They work hard, but against some good teams, we talked about like you two center backs can't have a bad game in a big game like this because that doesn't spell anything well if you're going up against Messi and your center backs aren't having a good game. So they kind of they live by Gvardiol, and then ultimately they kind of die by
I
Gvardiol,
think
and
so.
Lovren and Sosa helped,
Yeah.
but
I mean, the first chance did go to Argentina, but actually, I have then Croatia. So the 21st minute. I mean, this game did start off pretty cagey. So Molina is ahead of
yeah,
Messi.
they're trying to like feel each other out, is what it seemed like.
Yeah. So DePaul plays a disguised ball to Molina. Messi then runs off Molina to receive the ball. Messi's done this for some time to kind of receive the ball when he's already moving. He then plays a 1-2 with Alvarez, then getting it quickly back, and is nearly successful in playing through a through ball to Tagliafico. And it just doesn't come off because and then because it doesn't come off, Croatia then have a breakaway with Kovacic, and because Perisic doesn't necessarily see Perisic makes doesn't make a darting run ahead of Kovacic. He has nowhere to go and basically is fouled. But the reason why I want to bring that up is this was almost a repeat of what happened versus Brazil when Croatia was able to get that goal. Because Kovacic was able to get that spin, and I think he got around DePaul. DePaul did not foul him, and Kovacic again. If Perisic had made that run, it basically would have been Perisic versus maybe Moreira in a 1v1. And yeah, it just didn't come off. But again, it was one of those times where all it took was Argentina losing the ball or trying an attack and losing the ball, and they were vulnerable. And I think that's one that you think of Mbappe on the other end. That's scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's something France can exploit for sure.
And then a chance to fall to Croatia again in the 25th minute. So again, Messi gets the ball poached off him. Kovacic spins to Paul and then successfully gets past him. And then, oh wait, that's actually what I said. Um, we'll get to the goal because one thing I think people are going to forget about is this was unlucky for a number of reasons. But maybe the biggest one is it was almost a missed call. I mean, Croatia started off with a very promising attack. And it fizzles out because Perisic chips kind of deflects over the bar, or at least it looks like it deflects. Maybe he just mishit it.
No,
But
I think it did get deflected.
I thought it was going to
I
be a
mean, maybe
corner.
not.
I thought it was going to be a corner kick, and it wasn't.
Mm.
Argentina get the goal kick, and Croatia just kind of lay off and allow Argentina to build possession with their defenders. Otamendi tries to squeeze a ball to Alex McAllister, and Modric kind of deflects it, but it still reaches Enzo Fernandez. And then Enzo basically is able to look up and plays a perfect ball over the top that Alvarez is able to basically beat Lovren on. And then he takes the touch past the keeper and is brought down. I think it's a clear foul, but there was actually a debate about this on I think on like Sky Sports or whatever. Like Roy Keane
Mm.
and Ian Wright disagreed that it was a foul, which I thought that was interesting. I mean, did you have
Hmm.
any takes on that?
I mean, it looked like a foul to me. I didn't
Yeah.
have any complaints about that call for sure. Yeah, it was definitely a foul.
But another thing that's bad here is it's really poor by Lovren because he's running backwards and he's running away from Gvardiol. Usually you want your center backs to kind of be in a line, and if he's even with Gvardiol, there's no way Alvarez can make that run and stay on sides. Just Lovren was freaking out.
Yeah.
It's clever by Alvarez to make the run when he does, and it's a fantastic ball by Enzo Fernandez. And
Yeah. Well, the problem too with Lovren is like, he doesn't necessarily have the pace, so he's really got to be on
right,
mentally because he's got to make up for lack of pace. So
good call.
you kind of you switch off for like a second or half a second even, and you can get punished.
And I guess in that sense, maybe Gvardiol should have followed Lovren, so it's not just Lovren's fault. Gvardiol
Yeah.
should because of that. And then so he's brought down. Messi gets the PK. And what's funny is Messi missed or had his PK saved versus Poland, but since then he's been really clutch. And I think Jeremy even texted he's gonna miss this. But I think he hit the best PK I think I've ever seen
Oh,
from him.
it was. Yeah.
Because
Yeah. It
Livakovic
was amazing.
dives the right way, this PK isn't in the corner. So if he doesn't lift it, it probably is being saved. But it's hit with the right power and it's high. And basically, this is what Kane tried to do versus Lloris, and this is the reason why Kane probably tried that PK. And you can see if you're just a little bit off, that's flying over in the stands. So it's risky to do this.
Yeah. 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 You don't see him go for it's usually bottom corner. Yeah. Or Panenka in the middle.
Hmm. And I mean, it really is harsh because I mean, Livakovic does he tries he dives the right way, and another thing you can think of is maybe if he was started off further from goal, he would have been able to get there before Alvarez. It's just one of those things where margins matter, unfortunately. And
Oh yeah.
we'll get to the second goal. And this one again, you have to kick yourself if you're Croatia because another thing that was weird is Croatia was not doing normal corner kicks. They weren't just sending a ball in. They were trying to be cute with like short corner kicks to try to get a different angle. And what happens here is Alvarez recognized that and gets the initial block. And so Croatia have all their big guys. They have Gvardiol, Lovren, and whatnot, all in the box, waiting for a ball to go in. And because of this block happens, Otamendi's first to get the ball, and then basically Argentina are allowed to have a breakaway because it's just Alvarez and I guess like two guys kind of sitting back. But they allow Alvarez to dribble all the way up, and then another thing that happens is Molina sprints out of nowhere to basically run across Alvarez, and what that does is that drives Sosa from maybe being positioned to stop Alvarez to kind of follow Molina's run. And what happens is Sosa's now off balance, and so that's kind of the reason why I think he miskicks this because
Yeah.
of that run by Molina. So it's a fantastic run by Molina. And then, the ball kind of gets kicked off Alvarez. He's able to keep it. It's a bit like pinball. It's lucky, but also at the same time, by Alvarez making that run, he forced that luck. And so yeah, the bounce kind of went their way, but you kind of forced it to happen. But y- really, it all started with that corner kick decision. I thought. Now maybe it still happens if you try a normal corner kick, but I thought that was weird. And you think of like how Argentina were kind of beaten or bullied a little bit in the air by the Netherlands. It was weird that Croatia didn't try to take advantage of that. I thought.
Yeah, they have some tall players too, and I think why Scaloni didn't start Lisandro Martinez might have been because he knew that Croatia had some tall players, so maybe that's why he came off the bench and didn't start. But yeah, I mean maybe they're just trying to catch something different for I don't know because it really doesn't make sense if you have a height advantage in there. You might as well just send the ball on corners directly in, right? Like, so I don't know. Maybe they were just trying to like do something different to catch Argentina like off. I don't know, but sometimes you just need to play simple, play to your strengths.
Yep. And then there's kind of a chance in the 40th minute. Basically, shouts of handball kind of go unnoticed. I kind of surprised it didn't at least they didn't at least pause it to go to VAR because Gvardiol does make his body
Yeah,
bigger.
that
But
one was a
Argentina
tough
didn't have
one
a
for
corner
sure.
kick, and they do play it directly. And what's kind of funny is out of nowhere, Alexis McAllister is able to basically get on the end of this completely unmarked and forces a very good save by Livakovic.
Oh yeah, that was a ridiculous save. I don't know how he
So,
saved
I mean,
that.
that could have easily killed the game off there. But the second half started, and you saw immediate changes. You saw Sosa off for Orsic, and you saw Vlasic on for Pasalic. And then in the 50th minute, Brozovic had to come on, and then they brought in Pekovic, which I thought Pekovic should have started because he's like 6'3". He can play wing side, but he's also kind of a threat in the air. And basically, he was basically the difference maker when he came on versus Brazil. So it was maybe just a little bit too late, too little, too late in that respect.
Yeah,
But
I think so. Yeah, unfortunately.
yeah, but I mean, Argentina was still kind of the team on the front foot. In the 57th minute, I have Argentina working the ball, nicely, from the defenders. They find DePaul completely unmarked. Modric is like extremely upset at how open Croatia are here. DePaul then finds Messi. Messi then spins Gvardiol, a bit of a foreshadowing of what maybe happens later, and gets the ball to Enzo, and then Enzo quickly slips another pass to Messi, where Ivakovic is then still forced to have another good stop. Um, and then probably the last chance that Croatia had is Pekovic is fouled. Croatia have a free kick, and they valiantly do kind of send the ball in. Argentina can't deal with this at all, and Lovren basically misses from close range. Where I'm
Yeah, it was terrible.
one thing to think about is if any kind of like free kick situation that France have, Giroud is probably going to be favored to win some of those.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's so good in the air. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, there's going to be all this talk, Messi, Mbappe, and it could just come down to Giroud getting something off a corner, or if Kanate is able to play. I mean, Kanate in the I don't know how Argentina is going to handle Kanate in the air, or Varane. Varane's good in the air
yeah,
if
yeah.
they're able to play.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, because what do you do? Like, because you have to watch out for the pace of Mbappe, but you also have to have like some tall, like defenders that are good in the air because Giroud's there. So yeah, man, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be fun. Like Jeremy said, he's like, there's a lot of things that I'm like curious to see what like Scaloni is gonna do or what Deschamps is gonna do on Sunday. Like just even seeing the lineup, it's like something I'm waiting for. Then an hour before the game, I want to see that lineup and see what's going on. So it's always fun to start a match that way before it even like the game kicks off.
I mean, I personally, I think I would stick with instead of doing that 4-4-2, I would maybe do the 4-3-3, just basically, and play Di Maria, and basically have the idea that it's okay to be safe. It's just you can't lose the ball. Basically, try to kill the game that way. Almost not play that exciting because, and which was kind of going against what I usually like. Because you think about any kind of situation where they lose the ball, they're going to be vulnerable. So maybe you can kind of force France out because one thing you saw versus Morocco is France doesn't like to press. France are fine just kind of sitting back. Like Morocco had 60% of the possession in that game, which kind of stunned me. But I forgot that France are okay with playing counter ball themselves. So
Yeah, I mean, I think both of these teams are going to be they're going to be fine just sitting back and countering because they know that each team has players that aren't going to track back, but on the counter they're amazing. So I mean, it could it could be like kind of a track meet kind of end to end game potentially. I mean, we'll see what happens, but both teams can counter with that speed, and both teams can be countered on because people don't track back and you push your fullbacks up and etc. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be this is I mean this is kind of on one of the number of final matchups that we wanted. So I'm excited, man. Everything's gonna be very interesting, and I can't wait to see how everything plays out.
Yeah, I mean, because I think you mentioned it even before the show started. If hearing that this is the final, it makes sense because another thought you
Mhm.
think about is who are the two players that have been talked about more than anyone else over the last 3 years, and it is Messi and Mbappe. It's not. It's
Yeah.
not Ronaldo.
Mhm.
It's been the PSG teammates. You could maybe fit Neymar in there or not. Actually, Neymar's kind of because he's been injured all this time.
Shared
He's
so
kind of
much. Yeah.
got a little bit of the back seat here. Um, and another thing too is you think who are the most exciting people in 1v1s? Who are the people that try to take people on and whatnot? And it's those two players as well. And so
Yeah.
this is fitting. It's also fitting that you have Messi and his time to maybe be put his big goat status, and you maybe have the heir. You don't want to necessarily go that, but as far as people like who the player of the next era is, and it does feel like it's going to be Mbappe, and maybe not Holland. Um,
Yeah. If he wins back-to-back World Cups, I mean that'd be crazy. And Mbappe is young still. If he wins back-to-back, gosh, I mean, who knows how many World Cups he could win, Euros, things like that. I mean, who knows? In France, he's gonna have a good team around him too. I mean, yeah, Ben, it's great. I mean, he could be we could be having like a completely different discussion in
they'll
like
one
a few days if France win back to back.
they'll 100% be the favorites in 2026, no matter what happens in the final.
Yeah, yeah, I would
Uh,
imagine.
yeah,
Unless they have like a terrible Euro
it
too
just
or something.
it it doesn't matter. It just feels like they can just reload.
Yeah, they
It's
got a lot of young players, so
because I remember just a couple years ago. I guess it was for the Euros. I remember looking at their U21 team and being stunned at how stacked and how stacked they were. But their
mhm.
U21 team was it was Upamecano and Kanate as the two center back pairing.
Jeez.
So I was like, what the hell? Um,
Was Chouameni on there?
ch- uh, ooh, that's a good question. He might have been.
He might have been too young
I don't
actually,
remember.
because he's pretty young.
Uh, I think Fofana was. I remember like Hussein Irar was actually the captain. He's kind of fallen
Oh
off the
yeah,
back seat. Um,
yeah. What happened to him?
yeah. I mean, there's also there's like a clever guy, basically like maybe the next Griezmann, like Enzo, I think Lefen, who's playing in the French league. Like the French league has actually been really good when it comes to like developing their youth talent. What's kind of funny is that the midfield pairing versus Morocco was a player that people maybe don't know in Yusuf Fofana and Chouameni. And Stu Holden was like, I'm worried a little bit about Yusuf Fofana because he hasn't played a game with Chouameni this tournament. And I just I was like, that's egg on my face moment because they were literally teammates together with Monaco for the last like 3 years. Um, so it's just
Yeah, they got there's some good players there.
something happens with Rabiot, insert Fofana. Something happens with
Mhm.
Fofana. I'm sure you can insert Kamavinga. Kamavinga is a
Yeah.
player that we haven't really seen, and he's probably an up and coming. So it's stunning.
Mhm.
Um, anyways,
Yeah, it really is. It
we'll
really
we'll-
is.
so we'll get to the third goal, and then there's nothing really that happens after that. So, it's Alvarez, but really this is all Messi, and it's just a simple throw in, which is kind of weird. But Messi gets the ball and just decides to take Gvardiol on. I guess he just fancied it. Gvardiol looks like he's in a fine position. Messi is able to get the ball. Kind of close to the penalty area, but nothing like seems to be dangerous. And then Messi fools him with a feint and a quick feet to kind of spin around him, getting gold side of him. And then before he's running out of bounds, he's able to square a ball to Alvarez. And it's really good by Alvarez to recognize, hey, I need to be in the box just in case something happens. There's a lot of talk that Messi needs runners in front of him, and this is kind of the reason why. Like Messi can create and whatnot, but if Alvarez isn't there, nothing happens here. And
Yeah.
Alvarez does well to recognize that run. People sometimes attack quote unquote tap in mergence because this is a tap in goal, but it's the run that sets up the goal as well. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It was a great run. Great because little back post run is hard to pick up. It's good, and sometimes you take a gamble too, and it paid off. It's awesome to see, and the ball was obviously tremendous across there.
and and he also does well too because he does well to run to get into the area, and then he basically stops. He stops his run. Instead of basically, and that's basically what allows that space for him to kind of squeeze that through the defender and keeper. But another thing is worth saying is Gavardiol's maybe been center back of the tournament in some respects, and Messi Messi did not make him look like that. He's going to be sold for like 100 million, I think, maybe to Chelsea.
Yeah, I
And
think so. Yeah, and
I think
Messi put him on skates.
I remember texting Jeremy. I was like, he's going to be sold for basically 3 or 4 times what Liverpool got Kanate for from the same club. And that's looking like that's a very good buy by Liverpool. Um,
Yeah,
but it's just it's vintage Messi because like Messi's not necessarily fast, but he's quick. And one thing you can maybe do is maybe for like young players to know is you don't necessarily have to have the quickest sprint time or whatever, but you have to be able to change your tempo. I think this is like a Spanish word for it. I think pausa. Um,
Hmm.
and that's what Messi shows here. Like he did this a number of times where he changes his tempo. Where when he actually does sprint, he looks faster than he is. And yeah, it's just kind of what he does here. Also with like the quick feet and the feint. So
Yeah, his feet are just ridiculously quick. Yeah, like he's still fast, but like his footwork is so quick, and when he has the ball, everything's just so fluid. It's amazing, and he's an amazing dribbler, and he's always gonna get fouled and get free kicks, and he obviously can score or provide assist on free kicks. So there's a lot of things. I know Jeremy was talking about like Messi changing his game, and yeah, there's a lot of things that like he has done to change his game, and like he doesn't really sprint. He walks most games, but
yeah,
like he
the
saves.
announcers were
Yeah,
talking
they
about
even
that.
said it. Yeah, but when he saves it, so that when there's a moment when he can sprint, he can sprint 100% because he's older too. So yeah, I mean it's awesome to see. I mean you talk about though he does have like some willing runners now too, which seems to maybe Di Maria. That could be something else Scaloni's looking at to start Di Maria. We talked about that. That could help potentially. I don't know. Who knows? It's going to be a chess match because then maybe you can counter Di Maria because he's not really going to come back and defend too much at times either.
Yeah, that would have to be because you think about it, it's a final. Maybe this is actually the game that Mbappe actually does defend and track back. Maybe we actually
Maybe.
maybe
Yeah.
we actually see that. Um,
Yeah.
I do agree. Like Messi, it seems does have to save his legs, and maybe that's kind of what we've seen over the last couple of seasons at club level, where basically after they get knocked out of Champions League, he doesn't really. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes like
Yeah.
they're actually like he's sitting on the bench, just kind of like having fun with Neymar. I remember
Yeah.
that kind of happening. Uh, but it is a different Argentina team than one Messi's had in the past, and like you said, there's legs behind him now to not only win the ball
Yeah.
back, but get it to him. That's kind of another thing that happens with having a good midfield and also a really good center backs. Um, you know, Jeremy mentioned how there was a negative to Otamendi and Romero when it comes to like their pace, recovery pace. But one thing you notice is all of them are really good with the ball at their feet. And so that matters, especially when a team is sitting off you. That allows the center backs to creep up and to make those passes where, sometimes, instead of maybe going long, kind of threading something in. And if you have a midfield that's good at collecting a ball, having a good touch and being able to turn, then you can find Messi closer up goal than when he used to drop back so deep where he got the ball and it didn't matter when he got it, because he didn't have the pace to necessarily make that 50-yard run anymore. That happened like basically 2018 a lot. And
Yeah.
you don't need that anymore. You can get the ball. You can get Messi the ball. Closer in the final third when he can make stuff happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you love to have him with the ball, especially. I mean, he can make deeper playmaking role. He can do that, but obviously, the more touches Messi has in and around the opponent's box, the higher likelihood that he's gonna score or at least produce a goal. So that's optimally where you would want him. You don't want him dropping back too much, just because you want him up in the box. He's a magician with the ball at his foot, makes things happen. You need him up there. He's always gonna provide that like ruthlessness and that clinicalness, even if other players like are having an off day shooting.
hmm And I mean, we should speak about like basically, Messi was great and all, but we should speak about basically the man of the match in some respects in Alvarez. Um, I mean, you do worry a little bit about that Man City have another gem. Um, but it's not just his goals. His work rate is immense. He is
Yeah.
running everywhere. He tracks back. He's good defensively, at least in this tournament. We haven't really seen him much for City. But he looks quite a player.
Yeah, he's actually impressed me though with the limited amount we have seen him at City. He's been impressive. and he's really young still for sure. So I think maybe this performance in these games it might earn him a little bit more time. I know like he is behind Holland, which is tough, but
Oh,
he might be pressing for time, and I think he'll at least pour. I mean, Pep knows the quality he has, but you good?
oh yeah, you good. You kind of froze out. That might have been on my end. Um,
Oh gosh, yeah, I thought mine went. I was like, no, don't go again. All right, good.
I mean, another thing too is so we have seen a bit of a different Messi. I think from like past tournaments or even from the group stage, because while he had a fantastic goal over versus Mexico, it almost felt like
Yeah,
Argentina was still kind of trying to find themselves, and it seemed like Messi really decided to take players on again. Versus I want to say it goes back to Australia in that second half, where it didn't necessarily lead to goals, but he just absolutely decided to take the game on again. But it is funny because you look at how his tournament's gone. He got the key opening goal versus Mexico. He got the key opening goal versus Australia. Magic assist versus Netherlands as well. And then just key penalty kicks converted versus the Netherlands with the first one and Croatia. And
oh
so
yeah.
yeah, definitely he's worthy of all the praise that he's getting for this tournament.
Yeah, and some of the PKs have been very, very clutch too. I mean, they changed the game early on,
Mhm.
and it's easy to like have a rush of emotion and be kind of nervous and miss. So he's been like really calm and collected,
Through
scoring like these early
through
PKs
his
in these
career,
big games.
through his career, I think the announcer said he's got like a 28% miss rate for PKs.
Hmm.
Which is stunning. But that's just always kind of been like the one maybe negative to him. But not
Hmm.
only has he made clutch for PKs for the Netherlands and Croatia to kind of get that first goal, he was the first one to step up. He didn't do the Neymar thing where he waited last to in that Dutch shootout where he scored.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
I mean, this feels kind of foolish, but I guess I'll ask it anyway. I mean, I don't know if you heard what I was talking about with Jeremy and Maradona, but
Yeah.
does Messi actually need a World Cup to cement this goat discussion, or at least to cement his legacy over Maradona, or people just kind of be content with what he is, and that we really won't see another player like him, in my opinion, ever again.
Yeah. No, I kind of agreed with what you were saying, Ben. But yeah, I think he's already like he's GOAT status everywhere in the world, but I think maybe for Argentina and people from Argentina maybe they want that World Cup for him to be cemented as the GOAT over Maradona for them, just because Maradona did bring the cup home. I know, no VAR and hand to God kind of
Yeah,
thing, but yeah, so I think everyone the rest of the world I think is like this guy's we should just relish in him while we still can watch him play because he is getting older. He doesn't have like prime years left, many prime years left. So we just need to like stop criticizing him and just enjoy it. But yeah, I think for like Argentina fans, if he wins this World Cup, obviously he's GOAT for them. But I think Maradona's going to be like the main guy if Messi doesn't bring home this World Cup. And but if Messi does, yeah, he'll overtake Maradona in Argentina. And I think he deserves it. He's the media in Argentina has been very critical of him.
really
So
has.
it'd be nice just to like finally have him. This is the one thing he like hasn't done in his career. He's won everything. Spain like loves him. But yeah, he has had trouble with Argentina and the national team in the past, and winning the Copa America is like a great redemption story. But this would be, so much bigger, and it would finally get him the praise he deserves in Argentina.
Yeah, because another thing that's kind of funny is um, something that like Luka Modric said after the game was basically Messi is the best ever, and I hope he wins it. And Jeremy was kind of having fun with that text, but I was trying to think when you hear players that have actually played against both Ronaldo and Messi. I remember Chiellini had a quote basically saying, "With Ronaldo, I know to watch him when he runs outside to kind of watch that back post run. With Messi, I just cross my legs and pray." And it's like the way former players that went against both, they talk about them differently, and it only this whole Ronaldo stuff. It almost feels like it's from either ex players from like a past generation or commentators or pundits. So
Mm,
that's something that I think is worth saying too. Um, so
yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And well, to be fair, like Ronaldo's had an insane. He got better after he turned 30, which I don't think is possible.
Yeah.
That is worth saying that.
Oh yeah, he's been. I mean, he's been a ridiculous goal scorer his whole career. But Messi's been a ridiculous goal scorer, and
A creator.
an assister too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And then another thing I was kind of thinking about, I guess, well, and then we'll quickly move to France and Morocco, is one of the reasons why I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again is the way that youth academies and everything is set up. It's to prevent this, and I think Messi's even talked about this before the tournament, where he's like, I don't think someone would be able to play the way I played because one, you're taking your winger and he's dropping all the way back, so you leave in that space, and you're getting the ball, and that a kid that's going to try to be like Messi is going to take players on, and what happens when you lose the ball? It's harder to play that way, or it's harder to trust a young kid to play that way to make some mistakes, because everyone suffers through that, and it almost feels like Mbappe being the next heir is fitting because the way the game is, you have to be a player to make runs in behind. You have to be a player that runs without the ball, essentially,
yeah,
to score or to be dangerous. So
yeah,
it's kind of a negative because on the eye, one he was kind of diminutive, so it was fun to kind of watch that. Messi going against people that were significantly bigger, and Messi kind of beating them. Um,
yeah, out dribbling them and yeah, making them look like fools.
but him getting the ball basically in the halfway line, the 50-yard line, and taking players on is also kind of fun to watch too. You don't really see that. Even Salah gets the ball and he's getting the ball kind of he's a bit like Mbappe. He tries to make these runs when he gets the ball. He dribble around the box. But anyways,
Mhm.
so we'll move on to France and Morocco. This one does end 2-0. Bit of a surprising game, to be honest. The first goal comes early from Taylor Hernandez, and then Kolo Muani, who was subbed on basically a minute before this, uh,
Yeah.
uh, introduced himself. And Muani is an interesting player because I think he's only in the squad because of what happened with Nkuku. Um,
Oh
and
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
and Mourani is also interesting too because he's been having a really good year at Frankfurt, and I think it's his goal that actually got Frankfurt into the next round in Champions League.
Yeah,
So
I think he has eight goals and 11 assists so far for Frankfurt in all competitions,
I,
and it's halfway through. So yeah, he's been amazing.
I've heard Thierry Henry speak highly of that guy, so he might be a player to follow. Maybe not
I think
necessarily for
so.
the final, but going forward. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And so France in a 4-2-3-1. Nothing different that we're seeing. Koundé, Varane, Kanate. Kanate was the surprise, but I think it's because Upamecano was either ill or had some
yeah.
kind of injury. And then Teo
But
Hernandez.
yeah,
The midfield was Tchouaméni and Fofana. So Fofana was in for Rabiot. Rabiot was also sick. And then Dembele, Griezmann, and Mbappe, and then Giroud. And the only thing to maybe talk about the front four is Dembele hasn't necessarily had the best games the last couple of games. So I don't know if maybe he's
yeah.
kind of maybe the final setup for him to show up because it does feel he's better than what he showed the last couple of games.
Yeah, I think so. He's just so streaky, but he always has that pace. So you never know. He's uncorked a couple shots that have like just missed. He can pop up with a goal or an assist just because he's so fast. But he is a very like streaky player.
Mhm. And for Morocco, it was basically I think a 5-4-1 is what I said. I saw it was maybe like a 3-4-3, but anyways, it was Hakimi, Dari, Saiss, Yamik, Mazurai. Mazurai was only able to go basically the first half. He had to because he came in with an injury. Saiss had to go after like 20 minutes. He had an injury. Ziyech didn't necessarily have a good game. And then Unani, Aramovet, Boufal, and then El Nesri. Um, and what was interesting is the way they played Hakimi. I thought was interesting because it was kind of brave to play Hakimi as high up as they did. And Morocco, even though they concede first, this game was not at all what I was expecting. I thought maybe they were gonna. Well, I guess the early goal forced them to kind of change, but they were
Mm.
very good. They showed skill on the ball that I don't think they've shown in this tournament. And the only thing that was lacking was just end product. Just a guy able to finally pull a trigger. But the passing and movement that they were making in the box, I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, that was I wasn't expecting that to be honest. And
Yeah.
Yeah, they got some talented players, and I think the coach has done a really good job in a short time with them too.
True.
I think just part of the problem too was like their midfield was working hard all tournament long. Maybe they got a little laggy. Someone like in the midfield, I think, got hurt early on too, and had to come out. Oh, it was Seiss, wasn't
Says,
it? Seiss
yeah.
had to come out.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and we talked. You talked about him. You mentioned. I don't. You were like, I don't think he's going to play, and I mean, he was only able to play like 20 minutes. So
Well,
I think the coach just was like, let's get him out there. If we can get 20 minutes, that's great.
it was
But
a hamstring. I was like, you can't recover from a hamstring in 2 days.
no, you can't. Yeah, and
Um,
then maybe just because it's a World Cup, he was like, "Let me see what I can do." And
mhm.
yeah, 20 minutes maybe is better than no minutes. But yeah, you call. I mean, you called it. And he wasn't really effective, and he only played 20 minutes. But yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, well, I was excited to see them like going and attacking, and I think maybe in the future tournaments you can look forward to them too. Africa Cup of Nations, things like that.
I mean, it's been a good World Cup for PSG. Because a
It
player
has.
that I completely forgot, to be honest, and shame on me because I was thinking of Ziyech trying to maybe go at Theo Hernandez, and I was like, yeah, Ziyech doesn't really have the pace to do that, but Hakimi does. I mean, Hakimi he's got I think top speed that rivals Mbappe.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that, and he
I feel like you could
is
play like as a wide midfielder too. Even like he's kind of like Alfonso Davies ish.
he
Not
really
maybe
is.
not quite as
Yeah.
fast, but
hmm
he's good. He's the real deal.
And I mean, on the other side, Mazurai is at Bayern Munich, and he's young too.
Hmm.
He's not necessarily playing for them yet, but he had a fantastic year the year before at Ajax. I mean, that's the reason why he moved
Yeah.
to Bayern. So yeah, Morocco have two really good fullbacks, and the more this tournament has gone. Jeremy said, you see countries wanting to try to not really play with attacking fullbacks because it's better to be kind of defensive. At the same time, it's worked for a couple of teams to play with explosive fullbacks. So there's a
Yeah.
bit of one or the other there. So I mean, we'll get to the goal.
Yeah.
First off, it's in the 5th minute. It's Taylor Hernandez, and good for him because he didn't necessarily have the best game versus England. He was responsible for the PK that Harry Kane missed. He was also Saka was getting the best of him. It seemed like anytime Saka was on the ball. But he bounced back and had a fantastic finish because this wasn't an easy finish.
No, I don't know how I kept it that. Yeah, how I kept it low. It was,
I don't either. Yeah.
like he had to get his legs so much higher, and the ball was like bouncing so high. It was a ridiculous finish. Really, I was like when he attempted it, I was like, "There's no way he's gonna keep this down or on target." And yeah, man, it was amazing. Near post finish too.
And I mean, it starts with Varane having the ball. There's no pressure on him, and then he looks up and he plays a very good through ball to Griezmann. I mean, people are going to look at what Mbappe did, what Griezmann did. The ball by Varane is really what sets up the goal, and that's what happens when you have center backs that are good with the ball at their feet. You basically they
Yeah,
become almost your midfielders when they can play as high up as they were, because he makes this pass inside Morocco's half. Griezmann gets the ball, he passes it to Mbappe, and then Mbappe basically tries a shot. It's blocked the first time, but he's fastest to get on the rebound, and then tries another one, and it loops over everyone and it falls to Teo Hernandez. And like you said, he does amazing to keep this ball just on the ground, regardless of it going in the goal, because he has to. It's high up for him to. I don't even think he like leaves the ground. It's the way he's able to get his foot over the ball and to keep it down is impressive.
yeah. Oh, it was ridiculous.
And then a couple chances fell to Morocco. They did respond pretty well. I mean, it's an outside shot from Unani, but it's decent. He gets the ball, no one closes him down, and just tries a shot. But then France basically had a chance to kind of put this away, and they didn't. So the first one fell to Giroud. It's a simple ball launched over top that Morocco don't handle well. Giroud's able to kind of read the bounce, and he gets close enough to have a pop, and it just kind of clips the outside of the post. But this is, I think, when Saiss was like, "I can't continue." His
Yeah,
ball went over the top, and he just wasn't able to like, yeah, I'm done." And then Chimini kind of picks the ball off someone, carries it up 30 yards, running past like Morocco defenders, and then plays a through ball to Mbappe to run onto. Mbappe gets a shot that's kind of cleared off the line by a defender, but the rebound falls to Giroud, who's on sides, and the keeper's like out of the net, and Giroud somehow hits this wide. And it
yeah.
was just not the best game for Giroud.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I was shocked honestly that he missed because we talked about it like he's up there in the race for the Golden Boot. He's been putting some of these chances away, and it was kind of a night to forget. But those nights are few and far between. I feel like so. I think he's going to come out like with a vengeance, possibly on Sunday, because I feel like he's fairly clinical. He doesn't like miss or at least miss a target that often.
And honestly, that would maybe be my prediction too. Because what if we talked about for the last, in our text for the last like 2 days or so, it's been Benzema maybe might play. So that's gonna fire
Yeah.
him. That's gonna fire him up as well. You think?
Yeah, I think so. Because he's like, what? I'm the one that's, I've scored a lot of goals. We're here, and I've been scoring. I mean, come on. Like, I think it would be kind of deflating too, honestly, if Deschamps did take Giroud out and put Benzema in. And even though Benzema hasn't, through no fault of Benzema's, he's been hurt, but he hasn't been there with the team and stuff. It's kind of, you should play the players that got you to the final. I think.
Yeah, I like what you said in the text. Dance with who brought
Who
you.
brung ya?
That,
Yeah, yeah,
that was
something like
excellent.
yeah, yeah, it is like that though. Like, you got this far with Giroud and others, obviously, and it's not like Giroud hasn't scored either. He's been scoring a bunch. So, I mean, I think I don't know. You could see maybe Benzema in the last like 10, 20 minutes because it probably would be like his last World Cup. So maybe Deschamps, a former player, kind of feels sympathy for that. I don't know, but I don't think you really see him, I don't think you'll see him make an impact if he is on the team. It's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of distracting, and the media asked Deschamps about it, and he kind of was like, "I don't want to talk about it."
Yeah,
Next question.
that is distracting.
Yeah,
I mean, what's crazy too is, for people that maybe don't know who Benzema is, potentially could have a challenge for the Ballon d'Or. Actually, he did win the Ballon d'Or, right? No, he did. Yeah, he's the Ballon d'Or holder. I think. He's been
oh.
fantastic for Real Madrid and France. Since he was
Yeah,
back in the lineup.
yeah. He's been on fire.
But the play goes through him when Benzema plays, and that's what's been different. Giroud is actually quite fine. Working without the ball. Being unselfish, and that's allowed Griezmann to kind of shine, and Mbappe as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He's unselfish for sure. Like one of the more unselfish players, Jude.
like, he does a lot of running. Doesn't really see much of the ball, but when he does, he's especially around the box. He is an assassin in some respects.
Like
Especially
so good in the
especially
air,
in the
and
air.
anything to his head. Yeah, anything to his head is dangerous.
And definitely, you do worry. Like maybe Otamendi is better in the air than Lisandro Martinez, which I didn't think about. Maybe Otamendi's bigger. Maybe that's the reason why Martinez hasn't been playing in a number of these games. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, because he definitely got bullied versus the Netherlands. Um, but before we get to the second half, there was a chance it falls to Morocco, or at least a half chance. Um, Erembet starts off with a good diagonal ball to the right side. Hakimi kind of plays a give and go with Unani. Hakimi then gets the ball, continuing his run in the box, and he looks like he's going to have. He actually has a player open to do a square pass to, and out of nowhere, Kanate like stops in and blocks his cross off. But then on the ensuing
Oh
corner
yeah.
kick, this happens out of nowhere. Yamik decides to go Xbox and basically does a bike. And if not for a miraculous save, I think this is going in. Like it hits the post, but it's on the other side of the post. I think it's going in without Luis getting a glove to it.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, it was a cracking effort. It was a good save too.
It came out of nowhere too. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's one of those though. Like if it scores, oh man, it flips the game on its head, and Morocco's like, hey, we got a chance now. But I mean, sometimes it's just it was just a great save, and I don't know. But yeah, it was more like we didn't expect this from Morocco. We wanted it, and I'm glad we got to see them like go for it at least.
yeah, true. Because one thing, while they didn't necessarily, I mean, the shots on target we'll get to were not much. I think it was like three apiece. But this was actually a pretty entertaining final or semifinal. In a way, maybe people weren't really expecting because Morocco, it's like that underdog story no one really cares about. They'd rather see Spain or Portugal,
Mhm.
and it was an entertaining game. And they
Yeah,
had France kind of on the heels a little bit. It was only one goal game for the most part. Um,
they did. Yeah, they.
yeah,
I mean, Morocco was. I know the players are disappointed, but once that disappointment wears off, they should be very proud of their performance in this whole tournament. And I mean, they went for it, and they didn't just sit back on their laurels like, oh, we made it here. They actually went for it, and it's. I mean, I know they didn't win anything, but this is something that they can build on going to the future. Like, I mean, I would have been thrilled if USA had gotten this far. So it's building blocks. They can build on this. I remember, I was telling Katie, like I remember when Morocco, the only player I knew on their team was Benatia from Bayern, and now they have several players that we know, and really good players too. And it seems like this new coach they have is he knows what to do to motivate these guys too. So I think the future's looking pretty bright. I mean, I know things can change, but they're looking pretty good. They maybe African Cup of Nations coming up for them
Hmm.
is their next tournament. Look out for them, and then 3.5 years World Cup again.
And not necessarily pour water on that, but I just anytime I hear that they do it every 2 years too. They don't do it once every 4 years. Um,
Yeah.
I just always like freak out because that just means more time for Salah to miss another January. Um,
Yeah, more time for yeah, and I mean, like a bunch of good players always end up missing, and it sucks because it is always in the middle of the club season too. Which it'd be cool if it was in the summer, and like it's hard to get games here sometimes too, and it's just a crazy like African Cup of Nations is just a crazy tournament. It's insane. Sometimes the refs are like terrible, the fields are terrible. I don't. It's a weird tournament. It's hard. It's very hard to win.
Yeah, and I think the infrastructure actually was really bad. The country that hosted it, I think one of the stadiums did collapse.
Jeez.
Um, they did host it in the summer one time, but I think it was in Egypt. I don't think they were allowed to do it anywhere else.
Oh yeah, I guess they can't do it. Yeah, because it'd
Yeah.
just be too hot. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Shoot.
So I mean, in the second half, Morocco starts with an early sub, Atiyat Allah for Mazraoui. I mean, we talked about that. Mazraoui was kind of a surprise start, anyways. And yeah, he just one thing that basically showed up was Morocco just kind of they came into this game with like flat wheels or flat tires, and they just kind of popped a little bit. And you kind of saw that, but there was a chance to fail to Mbappe just like really early on. Chouameni gets the ball from Koundé, quickly plays a good through ball ahead to Griezmann, and then Griezmann looks up and tries to thread a really good ball to Mbappe, making a run, kind of splitting the two center backs in the middle, and the ball is just a little too far. Mbappe's not able to get to it. But one thing I was talking to Jeremy is, to me, I thought Mbappe looked more dangerous when he was playing in central areas, not when he was forced to kind of be out on the wing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. He can just, I mean, he can. Well, I know on the wing he likes to like cut in and stuff, but yeah, I think he is more dangerous in the middle. But I guess maybe Deschamps won't mess with what's been working with
I don't think so.
Giroud
Yeah.
and then Griezmann behind him, so he'll probably stick with it. But it is like a wrinkle that if things aren't going well, maybe you could see Mbappe switch to the middle on the fly, and they could take Giroud out. That it's just more options for Deschamps.
Yeah, because I mean, really, I've been kind of sliding him pretty much the entire time we've been doing the podcast. And Jeremy mentioned how he compared France to maybe that Madrid team that basically won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, and maybe in a weird way,
Yeah.
Champs is a little bit like Zidane, where he's he a former player, and maybe people kind of just want to slide him because they don't necessarily believe in him. Maybe he's better tactically than people want to give him credit for, because he did what Southgate didn't do, which I want to get to, because Morocco was showing signs that Argentina can maybe copy and give them fits, because they were getting the ball in the box a lot in the second half, and France were really, they were forced into desperate defending. I thought desperate clearances. There was one by Varane. That forced when like a ball was kind of crossed in, and then Kanate was able to stop basically a square ball that would have been a tap in. The Morocco's quick passing and movement, in and around the box, was giving them fits. And
Mhm.
you saw Deschamps make two subs. One Marcus Thuram for Giroud, and then Giroud also wasn't necessarily moving well, so maybe he had heavy feet or something. I mean, that could maybe be
Yeah.
something to follow. And then
Mhm.
he took off Dembele for Randall Kulu Morani. And the thing that kind of jumps out to you is these were offensive minded subs. So
Yeah.
they're kind of on the being on the back foot, and he decides to make offensive subs.
Mhm.
This is what Southgate didn't do. You know,
Right.
and I think basically this is why they ended up getting that second goal, because Marcus Thuram, what he was able to do was he was forcing him another outlet to kind of relieve pressure, but he's also got some size to him, so he was winning aerial duels. Another thing too is he was a threat, so that forced Hakimi back into defense because it moved Mbappe centrally, and Hakimi had to defend also versus Mbappe. So it was a good sub by Deschamps. Credit to him.
Yeah. Yeah, and he didn't wait around. Like he was like, "All right, we need to we need to change things. Let's put in some attacking guys, and let's not just continue to get pinned back. Let's actually try to regain a little bit of positional battle here, and because like if he waited till a goal got scored on them to do it, who knows what happens then?
Yeah.
So I like like unlike Southgate, he made the call before things got a goal scored and things got even tighter.
And Jerry Rude's a guy where that you like, cross the ball in when you've got a lot of the ball and you're the dominant team in another person's opposition half. When you're kind of sitting back and defending, you need outlets. You need outlets to kind of get out of pressure, or you need outlets to just kind of to hold on to the ball a little bit. And Jerry Rude's not necessarily going to be the guy to kind of hold on to the ball or to kind of make runs. He's like you said, a target man. So it was the right idea to do it at the time. So
Yeah, and I mean, it paid off too
really did.
with Muani scoring like a minute in. So makes the manager look smart.
And to get to the goal, to me, this is what peak France can offer. So we mentioned, he recognized the side of the slipping away. He made two proactive subs, and it starts with France basically winning a bunch of aerial duels in a row. It's after a goal kick. Marcus Thuram jumps over Amrabat. There's a loose ball that falls for Fofana. I mean, Fofana plays a clever slip pass to Tchouaméni, and then Tchouaméni, man, did he look good in this game as well? Unfortunately, he's able to carry the
Yeah,
ball. People are trying to hack at him, and he's so big and strong. They can't get it. They can't get near him. Also, he's quicker than you would expect for his size. And anytime he's in front of you. People can't catch up to him. And he looks very comfortable dribbling with the ball at his feet. So he's able to again carry it up to basically the kind of the penalty area. He finds Thuram. The Thuram then finds it to Mbappe, and Mbappe looks like he's guarded by four defenders, and then shows just insane clever and quick feet to basically wiggle out of it. Finds a little space for a shot. The shot's deflected, and then Morani's right there for the tap in. It's good by Morani to kind of be in that position, but I tried to. I tried to cover or give like Molina credit for maybe Alvarez's goal. This is really is all on Mbappe. This was fantastic. A little bit like with Messi. The way he was able to get that third for Argentina.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Because I saw something on like Talksport, where a guy was like, Mbappe is just like a speed merchant. I don't even know what that means. He's like, oh, he can deal with space, and there was no space here, and he's able to beat four players. Like Mbappe's improved his game so much,
yeah.
even in
I
tight
mean,
spaces.
yeah. I mean, he is pacey, but yeah, you can't. At this level, it's not just like pace alone. I mean, maybe pace alone got him to a certain point, but yeah, you gotta have good dribbling skills, good footwork skills, and I mean, he scored too many goals too to just be like a pace merchant guy, like because
Hmm.
he can score. Like a pace merchant guy is kind of like Sean Wright Phillips or something like that. Like he didn't necessarily score a bunch of goals or maybe even get like a ton of assists, but he was fast. And Mbappe is not just fast.
Yeah, like Dan James or something.
Dan James, yeah, that's a perfect example too. Yeah,
I mean, so the stats were the XG was France 2, Morocco 1. The shots was 14 and 3 on target for France, 13 and 3 on Morocco. That that really was kind of the thing that did Morocco in. They were getting the ball in pretty good spots, but they just were not able to get really anything threatening Louise. And then
yeah,
France 39 possession, Morocco 61. I was saying that France or Morocco would be fine having 20% of the ball and defending, and maybe that first goal kind of changed all that. But yeah,
I think
Morocco with the
so.
dominant team in both halves, with
Yeah, yeah, I
500
think the
passing
goals.
as well, with
Hmm.
87% accuracy, which is not something we
Yeah,
had seen from them.
no, I was actually shocked looking at these stats from Morocco. I was like, I mean, I know they acquitted themselves very well in the game, but the stats were surprising too because they dominated some areas, and yeah, I mean, it was a it was a good performance from them, but I think it was also just the goal changed. It was because it was like 4 minutes in too, so it just changed everything. It changed the game plan immediately.
Yep.
And at least like the coach made some changes and went for it. Some of them obviously were injury related, but I thought he was pretty proactive too. As far proactive as you can be, making some subs early. Besides the Saiz one, which was for injury, but I think he made what two at halftime,
He did.
two to kind of change the game. So yeah,
And oh no. When I rename the podcast, I'm gonna actually I'll have to call it the Rex cutting in and out episode. Rex, are you good? Maybe not. Um, I mean, to kind of is focus a little bit on this game. I do think it's there. We go.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying that it's that coach's first loss too. So
Mm,
you'd imagine he'd be the coach for the next couple of years, and I think everything bodes pretty well. But who knows? Who knows? But at least they can go back and they can hang their heads, hang their heads high.
mhm.
Yeah, hold their heads high. There you go. Hold their heads high because it was a great tournament for them.
Because it's one thing to get to a semifinal, but you got through France. I mean, you got through Spain and Portugal.
Portugal, Spain, yeah, that's crazy.
They
Those are
didn't.
some like
They didn't go through. I don't want to slight. They didn't go through Australia or.
they didn't
I don't know.
backdoor it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
And
Um.
their group, I mean, their group had, oh man, their group had Belgium in it, and they got much farther than Belgium. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. Ah, man, I was trying to be high on Canada, and they really did
Me
flop.
too. I thought Canada would finish second in that
Was it
group.
was it Croatia too? Yeah, it was Croatia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Croatia. Yes, I mean that was a tough
That
group,
was
and
not
they
an easy group.
they didn't lose out of that. So yeah, hats off to them.
I mean, so this is two games in a row that I think France has been outplayed in midfield. But it hasn't mattered. But should it? I mean, France also
You're
hasn't.
good. Yeah.
France hasn't been down a goal in the second half in like a meaningful game. I don't think. I think they were
Mhm.
losing to Australia, but I think it was the first half, and
Yeah,
they
so
haven't had to change their approach from like, oh, we'll just counter with Mbappe. Do you think they can make that switch if Argentina are winning in the second half, and France have to change?
yeah, I think they can make that switch because Mbappe is so good. I think they could possibly like move him up top, like you said. Or I mean, who knows? They just have so many good options off the bench too. I think Deschamps can do a number of things as long as like some of these guys aren't hurt still. I
Mhm.
mean, not, or hit or sick as well. Because like Rabiot, if he's back like on the bench, that's another option. Kingsley Coman, if he's back, I don't know if he
I think
will
he's
be,
sick.
but yeah, he's sick too. But if he's back, he's like a fast guy they can put in. Several midfield options. So yeah, I think if they do go down early, there's a ton of things Deschamps can do with this team to change things. I mean, Giroud, maybe you take Giroud off if he's not playing well. Maybe even Benzema's on the bench. So there's a lot of things that Deschamps can do for sure.
Yeah, because one thing I keep looking at Teo Hernandez, and yeah, he got the goal, but it's still I'm what Saka did to him made me think, whoa. And I know that sure, many being into the squad as with that Nation League, Teo Hernandez was actually really important in that Nations League win, as well. Uh,
Mm.
and I think even before the tournament, it was supposed to be his brother, Lucas
Yeah,
Hernandez, who was going to play there. He's a little bit more defensive minded, and I guess Lucas Hernandez getting an injury. I guess like the first game, you can't really plan for that. But I've been really surprised that Deschamps did not include Fernand Mendy of Madrid, just in case, because Mendy is a little more defensive minded, and it does feel if there's a chance, if there's a way for Argentina to attack, I do think it's that side. Um, and that's
yeah,
maybe to see. And another thing too is it seems like the entire back line has an illness right now with Kanate and Varane. I was thinking Varane could maybe
yeah.
be got at, maybe by Alvarez.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, I think he could be gotten at by Alvarez, because it's like youth against older older skill set. So I think that could be an option. But I mean, yeah, I don't know what's going on with like the illness and things like that on France. So it's gonna be interesting to see if like some of these guys can recover in time, or if they are recovered, like how do they feel? Because it sounds like they're like flu-like symptoms. It's not just like a cold that they can like shake off, take medicine and shake off. This sounds like something that it could jeopardize a couple of these guys' participation in the final, which you hate to see. Be gutting like to miss a final because you're sick of all things. Like,
Well, if it
but
is, yeah, if it is something that you said, if they're blaming it on the AC, I'm pretty sure that's almost exactly what Van Gaal said before the US game, where a bunch of like Netherlands players were supposedly under the weather, quote unquote, but
right,
they were able to
yeah,
play and they played okay. So
yeah,
if that's
Michael
like
Jordan flu game
if that's kind
maybe,
of the same thing, then maybe this won't really affect them.
yeah. Yeah, and some of the players have had, close to a week now of rest. So if it's not too bad and they recover fast, I mean, they got all like the modern science and all the trainers and stuff. I'm sure they're like getting pumped with fluids. It's not like if one of us gets it, and we're just like drinking Gatorade, and it's completely different. They're gonna be back faster than we would for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting. I haven't seen like any news today about it, so it seems to be contained at least. I know Deschamps was like really concerned about keeping it from spreading, so
Yeah,
I think
you don't
France is doing everything they can. But
quarantine Mbappe.
yeah, well, you don't want him to get sick. Jeez, yeah, he needs to be like, I don't know, like flying around in a plane by himself until the game or something.
So, we've talked about both games. I mean, do you have any final takes, at least on the final, or at least I guess we'll do a recap show. I guess we'll do like general takes, what we think of the tournament.
Yeah,
We'll save that for then. But
yeah.
what are you thinking for the final? What are maybe some things to kind of watch out for, or you'll be watching out for?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we mentioned like the illnesses. Who's going to play for France? Will Benzema be on the squad?
Mm.
Those are some of the things that and like for Argentina, like who's going to be in that back line? Is Lautaro going to play? These are all like things that immediately, like an hour before the game, I'm going to be really excited about looking at these lineups because there's a lot, and Mbappe, is he going to be on the left? It's both teams have some selection, people that they could put in for sure. And then I don't know. I'll be looking to see like you said, is Di Maria going to be in there? How are these flanks going to be exposed with people like Mbappe and Messi not tracking back? How is that going to play out? Are fullbacks going to push up or are they going to stay back? It's going to be interesting to see.
Mhm.
I don't know. Most times the World Cup starts kind of with teams feeling each other out. Maybe the last couple World Cups, not the highest scoring. Well, 2018 wasn't bad, but like Germany won by a goal. I think Spain, Netherlands went into PKs. So I'm hoping we get some more goals than the finals usually produce. But
We
I
got
don't know. I think it might be kind of cagey, Ben. You said it might be cagey. I think it will be.
Yeah, we got a good one in 20. I guess the last one. What was it? 4-2.
Yeah, was it? Yeah, 4-2.
Yeah.
So
I
lots
think
of goals at
I
least.
think you're right. Normally it is kind of dull. Jeremy's
Mhm.
actually talked about that a lot. He usually hates
Yeah.
finals. Because
Mhm.
one reason to kind of make it cagey is when you don't play with high fullbacks, when you don't really allow that space, because
Yeah.
it's harder to defend to get behind a back line, and you worry a little bit about. The interesting thing to me is going to be what Molina does. I think that'll be the player that I'll be watching, not necessarily Messi or anyone else. Is when Molina
Mhm.
goes ahead, who is covering for him, if any. What does Mbappe do? If Mbappe is playing centrally, does he try to move out wide? He's kind of recognize that. Um, does Argentina try to use him basically as a winger, essentially, because that's what we've
Mm.
seen the last couple of games. But another thing I think
Yeah.
to watch is, yeah, in every game it seems France has been able to get away with playing Griezmann, and it's almost like this free role. But they've struggled a little bit when they've been outnumbered in midfield, and Argentina can't outnumber them in midfield. Argentina can keep the ball. They've got a very
Mhm.
technical midfield that's also good at winning duels. Now it's going to be different going against Chouameni and friends. Chouameni can basically be maybe 2-1, so maybe we'll kind of see that. And that kind of gets to my other thing that I'm worried a little bit about is Jeremy mentioned it too. Argentina has struggled against physically dominant teams. We saw it versus Australia in that second half. Argentina were able to win, but it was close. They were hanging on. We saw it versus the Netherlands once Van Gaal decided to go. I don't want to say eugenist, but decided to go,
Okay.
decided to go. Caveman like basically Stoke City ball. We're bringing on basically two guys that are taller than the back line that they couldn't handle. They couldn't handle with any ball over the top. And you look at who again France has for any kind of aerial duel. It's hard to see how Argentina can cope with that. So that would be maybe the things I'd be worried about. I don't want it to be
Yeah.
decided on a
Rude.
set piece goal, but I fear it could be.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. You're right. I mean, Giroud, one good ball to his head can change the game, or like one amazing Mbappe dribble. It's going to be tight, Ben. But I do think they'll kind of feel each other out, keep the fullbacks back for the
Yes.
first half, maybe, and then maybe in the second half you see the game open up a little bit when both teams are like, hey, we gotta go for it now. But I don't know. Hopefully they just hit it because France. I heard Jeremy talk about like France might try to like blitz them in the beginning, and that would be interesting to see because maybe they get countered too. So we'll see how it happens. But there's a lot of things I'm looking forward to. A lot of things I'm like I don't know what's a lot of lineup decisions honestly, and the way these players are going to play. So I'm like I said earlier, I'm really excited. An hour before the game, I'll be counting it down so I can go on and see what the lineups are going to be even, and that's always a good way to
It
start a
is.
game when you're I don't what time's the game 10 I guess
I think it is 10. Yeah.
so 9 o'clock. I'll be counting down till 9 o'clock first, and then seeing the lineups, and then we'll be getting excited about the game. But first, I want to see these lineups.
Yeah, because one thing to say that was a real shock in how Argentina lined up versus Croatia. So you went from a back three to playing with wing backs to doing a 4-4-2 essentially, but it wasn't really a 4-4-2 because Alexis McAllister was basically playing in midfield as well, and that's why Croatia kind of struggled a little bit as well. Like
Yeah,
Argentina did have a lot of numbers in there, and basically it was just Alvarez just making runs. It was Alvarez and then Molina on the other side. And you can do that when Alvarez is like 21. You cannot be able to do that if Alvarez was like 30. But
yeah,
that's what happens when you have youthful legs. So maybe that'll be kind of the difference maker. The game's going to be about legacies with Mbappe and Messi. And if Alvarez is kind of the star, I don't know what we do about him because he doesn't really play a ton at City, but
yeah,
he has the potential to maybe become this.
yeah. I think so, and I think I think he'll force his way into the lineup a little bit more. He probably won't take like Holland's spot, but maybe Pep's like, hey, we gotta play him out wide more, or rest Holland and take him off and put Alvarez in more because he hasn't played much, but when he does play, he's been good. Maybe there's a loan kind of thing in the future, or he leaves to play somewhere else because I think he could start, especially seeing him play these performances in the World Cup. He could definitely start for a lot of teams.
It was versus Nottingham Forest, so I mean we can take I guess that kind of with a grain of salt. But he tried a 4-4-2 with Mbappe, I think with Holland and Alvarez starting together. I think Holland basically had a hat trick with I want to say 30 minutes into the game. That was the
Yeah.
best City's looked all year, in my opinion. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's just it's scary that they can do stuff like that. But another thing I
Yeah.
want to say is so France or if you're doing like a FIFA kind of uh, uh, I want to say like a draft or whatever, France at least player to player or more talented. I don't think that's kind of a I don't think that would be controversial to say,
No.
but
Yeah.
and sometimes finals it's not really about necessarily the talent. It's about basically having a player on a team that maybe overperforms in what he's supposed to do. And so one player I'm maybe looking at is, does Rodrigo de Paul have like a rocket shot that kind of flies in? Because I think there's going to be
Hmm.
space for that midfield to because of the way that France set up with only two. Griezmann's not necessarily going to be back there. There's going to be space at least in that middle third for Argentina to kind of do some stuff. So maybe there'll be the opportunities to kind of have a pop.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Alexis McAllister maybe. Yeah.
mhm. So maybe something like that will happen where it's not like anyone would take Rodrigo de Paul over or to a mini or maybe they would over Rabiot. But anyways,
Yeah.
that's kind
Maybe.
of something to kind of think about as well. And so
Mhm.
I think that's kind of it. Jeremy said 2-1. I think I'll kind of go the same way. I think somehow, some way, it'll be a destiny thing. And so yeah, I think that'll just be it. And France can be easily rebound, and France France can go for their next one in 2026. Maybe versus us. 'Cause I
Mhm.
don't really want them to win two in a row.
I want like more parity, but yeah, I think France pull it out just because their bench and just if things aren't going well, Deschamps can change things and a multitude of things he can do. Much more so than Scaloni. Scaloni still has options, obviously, and can do stuff. But yeah, like I think you could see Deschamps pull out any number of changes that could affect the game and maybe like clinch things for France. So I think France win, but I don't know. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be a close game. I think. I think it could be like I don't know. I'm gonna say 2-2, and France wins in PKs.
Ooh, I like. I
Doubt
could
it
say.
happens,
I could
but
maybe say maybe 1-1, and maybe. Well, actually,
and
the
PKs.
longer the game goes, I do kind of fear a little bit for Argentina because I think France has significantly more depth.
Yeah,
Um, and I do,
totally.
like Jeremy said, you don't want if France gets the first goal. I do think it's over,
Mhm.
because they could just sit back and basically play the counter ball, and eventually Molina would have to make that wing run because they don't. Argentina doesn't have a way to get width on that side. Messi's not going to be able to offer it. Rodrigo de Paul's not going to be able to offer it. Um,
Yeah, true. That's true.
it's one of those things where heart versus gut. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Hard first cut. I like that.
Yep. There we go. And I guess let's see. Do I have anything else to say? I think that's pretty much it. Um, well, we did a semi show. We'll try to do a final recap. Maybe more in depth. We'll try to get Jeremy on. Maybe try to get Alex on. And I don't know. It's been a fun tournament. I saw that it's been a successful tournament. We
Hmm.
we weren't really we did not know how this was going to go. I was worried there's going to be so many injuries, and there haven't been a ton. It's been negative for you with the Jesus,
Yeah, Jesus.
but it feels like he's been the only star. They've kind of found a way to somehow avoid all that, which has been stunning, absolutely stunning to me. But
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw this, but there have been more Americans, at least when it comes to eyeballs, or at least the time, watching this thing than March Madness.
really. Wow, that's
So
incredible.
that is incredible.
Yeah, dang.
So
Cool.
it's been successful here, certainly, certainly
Yeah,
successful
definitely.
in the world. We haven't had club football, but we're gonna get club football coming up. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you
it,
don't have to
it's
wait
been
long.
it's been fun. So I
Yeah, it
guess that
has.
said,
This has taken the place nicely.
we look forward to the final. It could be a dull fest, but at the same time, Messi and Mbappe is a legacy fest. So we'll be tuning in for that. We'll come. I guess we'll do come back Tuesday to talk about it, and that'll be that. So anything you want to add, Rex, or close off with?
No, no, just thanks for listening. Sorry, my internet sucked today. I don't know what happened, but it kept closing out, and then it would re-sign in immediately. So I was like, whatever, I'll just roll with it.
You trip it on. And so that's what matters.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
and so I guess that's a perfect way to end it. So for us two at the reserve squad, you stay squatting
Hey, squatty folks.
and stuff.